And we might as well all get together on this yielding business right off the bat now. I had some pretty good coaching last night, and I find that if I yield only for a question or a point of order or a personal privilege, that I can hold this floor almost until doomsday. In other words, I've got a piece to speak. And blow hot or cold, I'm going to speak.
Order. Boy, if Mr. Smith were there today. Welcome to what some might call the impossible dream. Others would wax poetic and talk about how everything got done in the good old days. And there will be wailing and gnashing of teeth over past favors not returned and old alliances being tossed aside. The House and Senate back in session, and the race to another lawmaker's vacation begins. We begin by welcoming in the national affairs columnist for National Review Online and senior editor at the American Spectator, John Funn. John, it's a pleasure. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
John, 12 days to go for everybody to get everything together and everybody to shake hands and all be friends. Let's all be honest here. Is there really going to get much done in the next dozen days before everybody disappears again?
Whatever will be done will be that which is the minimum necessary and not a penny more.
You would have to make it so logical, wouldn't you, John?
Look, these people want to get out of town. They have to go home. They want to go home. Congress's popularity is 8%. They have this misguided assumption that if they go home and talk to their constituents, they'll become more popular. They're going to pass a short-term budget fix. They're going to pass some extenders on the tax code that are expiring on December 31st. They'll probably approve a couple of judges here or there, and then they get out of town.
John, how smart was it that John Boehner came out today and he's trying to sell this government spending bill? It's almost this two-part plan here that will avoid the shutdown, but basically he's putting off the immigration battle until after 2015. It would seem that this is the logical thing to do.
Well, the alternative is to have a government shutdown in the middle of the holiday season. How much sense does that make? How popular would that be? That would sort of reprise all of the Grinch that stole Christmas stories. So given the bad alternatives, I think Boehner is making the best of a bad situation. Fund the government, but don't fund the Homeland Security Department, which is complicit in and basically wrote the president's executive action that frankly is unconstitutional and is probably heading for the courts. A delay of a few weeks before you take this to court is not going to make a lot of difference.
What about then Jay Johnson, who immediately snapped back, the U.S. Homeland Security Secretary, who said, I cannot run this department with a short-term spending bill, can't be done, give me my money or we're in big trouble?
Well, what did he do during the 7 or 8 years that Harry Reid was in charge of the Senate and basically made sure there never was a budget, there never was an appropriations bill, they were just continuing resolutions? Did we hear him complaining about that? Did we hear accusations that the Department of Homeland Security couldn't do its job? Look, I've looked at what the Department of Homeland Security is doing. I don't think they do their job whether they have money or they don't have money.
Are we missing the point maybe on Homeland Security? We talk about it so much here, and I'm sure you do as well, but that this might be, in some aspects, the most overbloated, badly put together, badly run, badly organized division of the American government right now that in many ways is not keeping us nearly as safe as we need to be.
Well, let's first stipulate we've not had a major terrorist attack in this country since 9/11. And if you had polled Americans on September 12, 2001, very few people would have made that prediction. So obviously they've done something right, and we need to credit our security agencies. Having said that, the Department of Homeland Security is a sprawling, wasteful bureaucracy. It shouldn't have been created in the kind of monstrosity form that it was. It should have been more compartmentalized. It should be made more professional. You should be able to move people around more easily, less union, for example, involvement in the TSA Inspector Corps. Lots of problems with it, but, you know, we have not had a major terrorist attack, so give them credit on that score.
Do you think, though, I got about 30 seconds left and then we'll take a break and come back, but do you think that with this short-term funding bill, is Johnson just blowing smoke here, or are we indeed at some sort of a security risk here if he doesn't have every single dollar he needs?
There is money that can be shifted around between accounts. There's money in reserve accounts. I mean, he's talking bureaucraties, which is Washington speak for I'm trying to fool you.
It's also bureaucracy speak for, here comes the vacation, I got 12 days, and John Fund was exactly right when he said we can't wait to get out of town. You're exactly right there. Right. Breaking back, more with John Fund as we dive into those who might be peacemakers and those who seem determined to slow absolutely everything down no matter what they do. And at 51 minutes after the hour, in Telling It Like It Is, why history may one day look back at Ferguson as a positive moment in American time. It's coming up right here on MidPoint. Welcome back to MidPoint, the national affairs columnist for National Review Online, senior editor at the American Spectator, John Fund. John, today Rand Paul said that he is going to run for re-election to the Senate in 2016, and the first thing I heard was, well, there goes the presidential race right out the window. I don't know why, John, but just knowing politics, I get what he says, but I'm still not completely convinced that we won't see him do something with the presidential run.
Oh, he can do both. Kentucky law makes it a little difficult, but there are ways to reconfigure the Kentucky primary into a caucus, which would occur early enough that if should he not get the nomination, he can run for another term in the Senate. This is the month, I think, when a lot of people decide whether or not they run for president. They're going to meet with their families over the Christmas holiday. They're going to do a gut check. They're going to talk to donors. And I think this is the month we're going to hear, not publicly perhaps, but we're going to find the decision being made by Jeb Bush, by Rand Paul, by Rick Perry of Texas, Scott Walker of Wisconsin, Chris Christie of New Jersey. A whole bunch of people are going to make up their minds this month after talking with family and friends.
John, what do you make of some of the stories that I've seen floating around the last couple of days that there is a contingent within the Republican Party that is plotting against Jeb Bush and does not want him to run and will do what they can to make sure he does not?
Oh, it doesn't surprise me at all. Jeb Bush was a great governor of Florida. I think he's a great fellow in many respects, but he's saddled with this name, Bush. I mean, he's the white sheep of a political family that conservatives have disdained for a long time. And they say the first Bush told us things that turned out not to be true. The second Bush raised spending dramatically and got us into a quagmire overseas. And we're not going to go for a third Bush. So Jeb Bush is certainly going to have that opposition, and it's up to him to lay out conservative agenda items that convince the base of the Republican Party he can be trusted. He'd made a start at that by saying the president's executive action on immigration was completely unconstitutional, and that's a good, strong point for him because he's known as being very much in favor of immigration reform.
John, with regard to immigration, we already touched on the fact that John Boehner is putting that off until 2015. Smart move, get the government funded, take care of that right now. What do you see then come 2015 as the schedule, the agenda that the GOP will follow in order to go after immigration?
Well, I think it has to be a two-track strategy. It has to be, one, opposition to what the president is doing unconstitutionally. I think that there are ways to structure a lawsuit that will get into the courts and start that process, perhaps even on an expedited basis. At the same time, look, the Republicans favor and should favor lots of immigration reforms, and Democrats shouldn't oppose them. We should, we should somehow repair our student visa issue. Why should someone who gets a PhD in, macrobiology have to go back to China? Why can't he stay here if he wants? Lots of Chinese PhD graduates here want to go and work in the United States. We would benefit from that. We can reform our agricultural workforce. That is very much needs immigrant labor on a short-term basis. We can restore the H-1B visa issue. That's bringing in technical people who we can't get otherwise for key jobs in this country. There's better border enforcement. They should pass all of these bills as separate items, send them to the president's desk. The president claims he wants immigration reform. Let's find out if he only wants immigration reform that he likes or whether or not he wants to have immigration reform that represents a bipartisan consensus, because most of the things I just mentioned, lots of Democrats in Congress have voted for or supported.
With about a minute or so that I have left then, let me bring this down to peacemakers. With regard to this new Congress that's coming in right now, in your opinion, who are those peacemakers on the right and or the left who can maybe bring things a little bit closer together and stop some of this, the rabble-rousing and the discourse that goes on every single day, and at least get something done?
Oh, I'll pick 3 or 4. Paul Ryan in the House, going to be chairing the Ways and Means Committee, which handles taxes. Even President Obama thinks we have to reform our corporate tax code. Rob Portman in Ohio, he's a senator. He's very responsible, very good person to work across the aisles. On the Democratic side, I think you'll see Senator Tim Kaine, perhaps, from Virginia, trying to play that role. In the House side, it's a little more difficult to find someone, but I think you can see Congressman Jim Cooper of Tennessee as being an honest broker, and he's worked a lot with Republicans in the past. So those would be 4 members who have shown that capacity, and they might calm troubled waters and be peacemakers, as you say.
They will calm troubled waters, but they won't stay calm for long, right?
Oh, the divisions between the 2 parties are deeper than they have been in 70, 80 years. And as a result, you're going to see sharp conflicts. That doesn't mean that something can't be done. Something always gets done. The question is how much and to what extent people are willing to compromise.
Indeed, and well put. John Funn from the National Review Online and the American Spectator. John, thanks so much for being here. A pleasant day. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks.
All right, short break, and we'll return with the issue of body cameras and too much freedom for the press. I said too much freedom for the press. And at 34 minutes after the hour, America has a new ally against ISIS, and you won't believe who it is. It's all coming up on MidPoint.